And as always, we got to thank Jake for being a patron and being on the podcast. We appreciate his input. We did 44 minutes or so about hot takes, and I think it was a fun time. I
liked it.
I yelled like a dad.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did. You snapped a little.
Maybe don't take it too seriously, Sean. Every single topic. I should probably cool down a bit. But we are getting into our top 6 men for the 2018-2019 season. This is based on past performances, also expectations. We take all of these 6 men from all 30 teams and rank them. And we will start off at 30. We have Harry Giles of the Sacramento Kings. Some people might say Justin Jackson. Some people might say, I don't know who else you would say on that team. But Harry Giles is 30 for Sacramento Kings. 29, Evan Turner of the Portland Trailblazers. 28, Malik Monk of the Charlotte Hornets. 27, JaMychal Green of the Memphis Grizzlies. 26, Mo Bamba of the Orlando Magic. 25, Luke Kennard of the Detroit Pistons. 24, Utah Jazz. Jay Crowder. 23, Wesley Matthews of the Dallas Mavericks, 22, Avery Bradley of the Los Angeles Clippers, and at 21, George Hill of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Boys, I can't talk right now, so please save me. Jump in on a guy that you want to talk about.
I got Malik Monk. I think there's just a massive amount of disrespect going around about this boy. Look, I get it. It's hard to be the guy who was picked before Donovan Mitchell. I get it, but still, he is a good shooter. And he finally got the chance to prove it on a bad team with a bad coach last year. At the end of the year, they let him run wild. The last 13 games, he was shooting 40 plus, I think it was 40 and 39, respectively, and putting up 14 points a game. He looked like he was back in college. It just came easier. And I think he got the one appearance in the preseason this year, or summer league, I should say. Yes, he did have a minor injury, and they were like, all right, we'll sit down. We'll be ready for the regular season. I just think that putting him at 28 is just straight up disrespectful.
One thing, real quick, he is younger than Donovan Mitchell, so it's tough to be like, you performed worse. You also didn't get the same playing time that Donovan Mitchell got. And in the last 6 games, they did 24.6 minutes per game, 46% from the field, 40% from 3, perfect from the line, 3.8 assists, and 19.8 points per game. He was fantastic in those last 6 games. Again, he didn't have a ton of punch to him. But the biggest thing that I put him at, I put him at 29. Ricky put him at 29 as well. You had him all the way up at 20.
Yep.
I just don't know exactly what his role is going to be. This was a guy
the ball.
But this was a guy that we had a question on if he was even going to be the 6th man. You have Jeremy Lamb out there. You have Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. I'm not sure if he's going to get those minutes, and that's the biggest thing. If he gets those minutes, he'll probably be able to succeed. But what if he comes out there, he's the 6th man right away, and he's not being effective on offense automatically or right out the gate, and they go and look at a Jeremy Lamb. They go and look at a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. This might not even be a safe spot. So it's tough to put him higher than the other players when his spot isn't exactly safe. Ricky, were you in the same thinking as I am, or are you thinking a little bit different?
I mean, for me, too, it all comes down to, and we kind of mentioned this before the podcast, is what's going to happen with it's no longer Steve Clifford calling the shots. And with a new coach coming in, is Borrego going to favor Malik Monk? Is he going to favor Kidd-Gilchrist? When I was coming in originally, I thought we were going to have Michael Kidd-Gilchrist as the 6th man for the Hornets. Now, part of that was because out of the guys we haven't had in the lineup, he had the most minutes, but it all comes down to Malik Monk's the one where this year it's going to be, if he does perform, he'll be the one that we'll look back next year and go, man, we were low on him. We were way too low on him. Probably the low. Well, where Dave was right.
I mean, I'm just saying, he's an exciting player, and you saw him when he got that confidence. I talked about this going into the draft last year. When he's hot, he has another gear that very few guys in this league have. He is an elite scorer. He doesn't question pulling the trigger on shots. He has trust in himself, and I think that's the thing is, at the end of the year, you saw him get the green light, and you watched. He just kept getting better and better as the season went. Towards that last month was really the only time we actually got to see the real Malik Monk, unfortunately.
One thing with that, though, is especially in the 6 games where he was getting 20 minutes per game, the first one was against Washington. They lost that by 14, so that wasn't a blowout. I mean, it wasn't like he was in a close game putting up 17 points per game. Then he plays Philly. That was the crazy end of the streak for Philly. They lost that by 17, another blowout. Then they went up and he put up 21 against Chicago. No offense, terrible team. Went up, played great. Then he goes up against Orlando. They not only were playing a terrible team, they won by 37 in that game. Then you look at Indiana. They lost that game by 6. Close game, put up 22. Really nice performance, especially going up against a guy like Oladipo. And then finished it out with a 26-point win at Indiana. But that was the end of the season. Another blowout. They were preparing for the playoffs. It wasn't like he was doing this against
So they lost the playoff
great
teams. They
competition.
beat teams who weren't playoff teams.
But my point is that it wasn't close games. Like they weren't like close against the Wizards. They weren't close against Philly. Those teams could play back a little bit. They can let Monk pop off. So again, what can he do? I'm not saying he can't perform well, but will he perform well? And what can he do?
Is what I'm hearing.
What can he do when he gets that time? When he gets that confidence? I'm not sure if he will get that time or confidence. And also, we look at Borrego, spent his most recent time under that pop tree. What will he be looking for in a six-man? Obviously, we saw Patty Mills in San Antonio really rise up. We obviously saw Tony Parker. Will Tony Parker even be the guy that gets that six-man role in Charlotte? I don't know if Malik is going to get that time. That's why I have him so low. The talent is there. The talent is absolutely there. I'm not saying the talent isn't there for Harry Giles, who I ranked last, or Mo Bamba, who I ranked 24. It's just what will their positions be? What will their time be? What will be their rotation be? How big will their minutes be? And how much how quickly can they gain confidence?
Right. Well, and another thing I just wanted to throw out, and maybe this plays into it, maybe it doesn't, is Malik Monk was drafted, obviously, 2017 draft, and it's Mitch Kupchak comes in April of 2018. His first draft class was this last one. So when it comes to Kupchak as basketball operations guy, does Malik Monk fit into the plan of what he's trying to build with the Hornets?
No, I think so, because
I'm just
they
saying,
probably would have looked
he's
at
still
that,
younger than.
Yeah, he's. I think I don't know. They might be same age. I don't know exactly, but they were same class at least. They came into college at the same time. Monk and Bridges.
Yep.
But I don't think that really changes too much because
I'm just saying,
talent's talent, and also if they felt like that was neat, I think Shea Gilgeous was still on the board as well. They could have looked to they could have looked to address the one guard or the two guard position, and they didn't. They went and got Miles Bridges.
Well, it's just for me, like I said, maybe an issue, maybe not, of where does Malik Monk fit into the plan?
That's true.
With the coaching, with the
I'm not going to argue.
I think the bigger question would be Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, because that's
older.
something that's older. He was a number 2 pick, and he hasn't performed up to that. There's not that attachment to a guy like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, where Monk, again, he's fresh out of college, and you could see that, again, he wasn't getting played. Now, what was the question? Why wasn't he getting played last year by Clifford? Was it just the coach didn't personally like him? A lot of things go into rotations like that. Was Clifford just a guy like Tibbs who doesn't play his rookies? That could be something. I think the talent's still there. The youth is still there. I don't think Kupchak is going to be, he's going to be like, oh, Monk's falling out of favor here, because he didn't draft a ton of guys this year that are going to be on this roster. Right. And the guys that are, Miles Bridges, we had him in our small forward
I think he's got a lot of options, because they do have a lot of good, not great. You mentioned like 4 guys could be technically a 6-man, and I know we went for the exciting name in Malik Monk, but I look at that team and I go, like you mentioned, MKG is a guy who just has the worst shot in the NBA, bar none. And yes, his defense is great, but he's unplayable at times. So I think that's a team, we wonder what they're going to do mid-season. We wonder who's still going to be on this team by the end of the year and then to start next season. So I think that this is very much a make it or break it year coming in, and I think that we'll see that Malik Monk will get the opportunity. I think he will step up and perform pretty well.
Well, and with Kidd-Gilchrist, too, his defense has gotten worse. I mean, you look at his defensive rating.
The teams got worse, too.
But, I mean, he's a guy that, I don't think his defense is game-changing. And also, I think it's something. We look at Roberson. Roberson's defense is game-changing, where his offense is terrible. But his defense is worth so much, where Kidd-Gilchrist, I don't know if his defense is worth that much with how bad his offense is. I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to be fighting for Defensive Player of the Year here anytime soon. It's good, but I don't think it's next level like a guy like Roberson's is. Another young guy on this list, obviously we have Harry Giles, another sophomore like Malik Monk, but a guy that I want to talk about is Mo Bamba. It's tough to judge, again, what he will be doing, how well he'll fit in. Is his body size big enough to be in the NBA right now, to hang with these guys? What are your thoughts on Mo Bamba, Ricky? I know you loved him coming into the draft. Has it changed a little bit? Have your expectations tweaked a little bit? You had him coming in and you ranked him at 19.
Yeah, I mean, for me, originally I had him at like 15 area, because the thing I think with this one is he will be a guy that comes in, it's like, okay, 6-man, just because that team, we really don't know what's going to happen with Orlando, but I feel like the end of the year, he will be the starting 5 for that team. And
But they've got 12 starters.
They've got 12 starters, so they could start literally anybody on that team. But I feel like the Magic are not going to be a good team this year. Duh. Hot take number one. That's sarcasm. It's not a hot take at all. I just feel like he's one where I was originally high towards like, okay, he's in the middle. And then I tempered it back a little bit because the thing for me is, what do you think the stat line is going to be? And most of the places I have seen are like, okay, he's going to put up like 12 and 10 points to rebounds this season. Like that would be perfect for the Magic. They would be happy if he was putting up 12 and 10 this year.
A big thing isn't, again, with six-man, it isn't really about...
Well, and that's what... Is he going to...
Stat lines.
Is he eventually going to get into the starting role by the end of the year?
I think it's a possibility, especially if they look to trade Vucevic. If they trade Vucevic, they're plugging in. They're plugging in Bamba.
Well, yeah, because they're going to get Draymond straight up, and he'll play the four.
And I think something as well is they're going to, probably look to possibly move out Simmons, maybe throw in out of the starting lineup. Please.
Yeah.
Move out Simmons, try to throw in Isaac, see how he can do at the 3 spot. Because obviously they tried Aaron Gordon. They tried Aaron Gordon at the 3 spot, didn't work out. He's
the
much
big
better
lineup,
power forward. Yeah, and
Bamba,
you throw Mo
Isaac,
Bamba at the 5. I think it's going to
future.
be interesting to see how it plays out, how it develops. I question how well he will, show offensively, but his role might just be defensive stopper. But they already have that in Jonathan Isaac. He might not even be the best defensive stopper on his team.
But think about 2 defensive stoppers now.
That's true.
You got 2 guys who can be just ridiculous because of their wingspan, their height, their ability to be mobile big men. I think it's impressive. I don't think that stat line's realistic. I'm expecting something along the lines of, give me 6, 8, and a block and a half. And that's
block
a lot.
And a half is a lot.
I think he's coming in as one of the best rim protectors in a draft class we've seen in a long time. I am all about this. I get he's not Anthony Davis levels of impressive. What was AD's rookie year blocks? Because now I'm going to sound like an asshole.
Well, I mean, he was also a starter.
Yeah.
His first year, he was also the number 1 pick. But AD's first year,
Yep.
AD played 64 games for the New Orleans Hornets in 2013-2012. 1.2 steals, 1.8 blocks, 13 points,
so
8 rebounds, and that was in 28
I'll go
minutes.
1 flat block.
That was in 28
but
minutes.
I mean, then you look at AD, like the big thing is that second, third year, he was averaging almost 3 a game.
Yeah. So
that was also with 35 and 36 minutes.
Yeah,
though.
I know.
I'll say 1 flat block then.
1 flat block.
Yep.
Nice. I think with Bamba again, it's how is he'll fit in the role, and I don't know what his role is going to end up being on Orlando because it's going to be whatever you need him to be.
Another starter.
Oh, I think it's going to be difficult for him to kind of figure out his way, and it's much easier to see the importance of a 6-man when a team's good. So that's why you look at the guys that are on here, and most of them aren't in playoff teams. You look at
Sean,
George
read
Hill.
through the lines. I like it.
Well, you look at George Hill, and he's most likely not going to be on a playoff team, and if it is, it's going to be like the eighth seed in the East. Avery Bradley, Clippers are good, but are they a playoff team? Wesley Matthews, probably not a playoff team, a young team. Maybe they surprise people, but most likely not. Also, I do want to throw out about Wes Matthews. There was a commenter. I heard you. I saw you. You wanted J.J. Barea as the 6-man. I understand your frustrations, but most likely Wesley Matthews might even be a starter if they move Dirk out. So we put Wesley Matthews because most likely he's going to get more playing time and possibly more starts. Jay Crowder is probably the only one on this list, because Kennard, Detroit's probably not going to make the playoffs. Magic aren't going to make the playoffs. Mo Bamba, JaMychal Green maybe for Memphis. I know that was a hot take for you. Charlotte's most likely not going to do it. Portland, Sacramento. So what? We have three possible players that are going to be on playoff teams in Jay Crowder, JaMychal Green, and Evan Turner, and only 2.
Evan Turner's pretty low because of his contract. Can we just admit that? Like for his performance, he is a okay player in the NBA. I mean, he doesn't deserve to be a starter. We all are on the same page there. But as far as like 6-men go, it's like, you've seen better days. You're still a serviceable player, but your contract plus your current play means you're just not worth shit right now in my mind.
And that's like I kind of wanted to ask, and we can get this in this one since we're just starting these rankings, is when you guys put together your personal ones, what were you looking at? Like, what was the barometer? Because I feel like with 6-man, it's what do you want from a 6-man off the bench? For me, it wasn't straight like, oh, highest points per game's at the top, the lowest guys at the bottom. But for me, the biggest barometer was if you're coming off the bench, I want scoring off the bench. So especially during like the top 10, even in the middle, I was looking at that points per game and what are you going to give me off the bench scoring?
I understand that, but I think, again, it differs on the roles. Real quick on the Evan Turner thing, too, I also think Portland over-succeeded. I think that you look at that starting lineup, you have Dame, you have Nurkic, you have C.J. McCollum, but outside of that, I mean, the 3 and 4 spots are kind of wide open. They're not really
we'll see what
solid
does.
and locked down.
Everybody seems to be a pretty big fan of Collins.
But outside of that, we know what that team is. Outside of Zach Collins, we know who every player on that team is. Evan Turner, Al-Farouq Amino. We know what those guys are going to bring night in, night out. And there's not going to be a shocking player on that team. Evan Turner, we know who he is. And I don't think he's anything impressive anymore. He's fine, but he's not great. And with what I was looking at, again, it's what was your role to your team and how much talent do you have? Because I look at George Hill, he's over the peak. Pretty much, he's over the prime of his career. We look at Avery Bradley; he's coming off injury. He's not consistently been great outside of Boston. We look at Wesley Matthews. Wesley Matthews had injuries and he hasn't been as great as he was in Portland. And he was such a vital role in Portland's success when he was there because he was bench scoring, he was 3-point shooting, and he was a huge kick in the ass. He also wasn't a six man; he was a starter back then. Jay Crowder, again, outside of Boston, he hasn't been consistent. He was pretty decent when he came from Cleveland to Utah.
Only in games they lost.
Better, but in only games they lost, as Dave wants to throw in.
Just toss out there.
Kennard, he's a guy that, again, what is his role going to turn out being? He's a young kid with a lot of potential, or a young kid with potential.
He's a very good shooter. The problem is, volume and playing time. Like, it's weird. We talk about Detroit being a team that didn't have outside shooting, and he was it. But him and Reggie, and
he's
get enough.
Vital to that team for that point. But also, again, how much is he going to change Detroit's winning?
Right.
Is Luke Kennard the reason why they win or lose games?
Yeah, we're not pegging that.
Mo Bamba, again, potential. We don't know what he's going to be. JaMychal Green, I had him higher than you guys. I think he's a key component to that team. If they do want to make it to the playoffs, because coming off the bench, he provides rebounding. He's a good defender. He could shoot from the outside. But he's a guy that, again, he's not a flashy name. I mean, no one really thinks of JaMychal Green when they think of great six-man. He was a starter last year, too. Monk, again, potential. Turner, we've seen everything from him. And Harry Giles, I mean, that guy's got injury problems.
He's the one that, like, if you were going to ask me, like, who's the one that intrigues me the most, it's Harry Giles. Because, like, I had to put him at last only because of those injuries. But the question is, if he comes into the season, he's healthy. He's even a guy, I think it was our power forward rankings. We were debating between...
It was him or Bagley.
Yeah, him or Bagley at the 4. And it's like, even as a 6-man, it's like if he comes in and is healthy and produces, it's like he can be a solid contributor to the Kings. But because I haven't seen you and you have injuries, I got to put you at last on these rankings.
But also, I think one thing, too, is expectations of these players. I mean, do we expect Harry Giles to come in and drop 12, 8, and 2? A block a game?
But if he wasn't injured, he wouldn't be dead last.
But he's not. Well, he's coming off an injury. He's not currently injured.
That's what I mean.
This is his rookie. He had a whole year basically to
but
get
he had
into
them
shape.
He had those injuries in college.
He had those injuries in high school.
Yeah, it's not like
even
this
college.
is a
He literally was
one-time
injured
thing.
in high school.
Maybe had a shortened college career because he was coming off bad knee injuries coming into college.
I think the year off was the smartest things the Kings have done in a long time. They gave him a chance to get him to bulk up, muscle up, get used to his body as it stands now. I really believe that he's going to be a very good and productive player in the NBA. But this year, it's just so hard to predict because they've got, I think we talked about it, they've got like 4 guys all fighting for positions between the 4 and the 5. It's very fluid. And minutes are going to come, it's performance. If Bagley looks great out of the gates and he can suddenly go right, then all of a sudden he's going to soak up 30-plus minutes a night because that's their attraction. So I think it's going to be very hard out the gates. Harry's going to have to prove something early on.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, he hasn't played basketball in a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something to prove for Harry Giles. That's why I put him as low as I did. He's not talented. He's got talent on his side. He was the number 1 recruit, I think, in his class.
He was.
When he was coming out. And obviously injuries derailed that, but he's still a guy with talent. If he's, comes out and he's a guy that can provide a spark off the bench and he provides something different than Willie Cauley-Stein, I think he'll move up in his rankings. And most likely they're going to get rid of Willie Cauley-Stein if he does show that and throw him in the starting lineup. So I think, again, taking in how I put these rankings, it's what's your track record? Are you at the peak of your career? is your team that good, and do you help your team win games? I look at most of these guys. George Hill, again, he lost his starting job to a rookie most likely. Avery Bradley, he hasn't helped his team win in a while. So, I mean, there's not a lot of guys that I look at and say, yeah, you're the reason why your team wins games,
you know what's funny?
or you're a reason why your team can throw out something else.
You know what's funny? I'm looking at this list, and I'm going, there's one guy who's injured who is not in this segment, who is known for his injuries, and we still ranked him very high. And we'll get to that one later. But just keep that in mind. We're talking about all these injuries. And, we're unsure, and what are they going to be able to do? Different circumstance, because we've seen some tape of him. He's played, but still the injuries are the plague.
Are you talking about the guy who's currently sitting at 14?
No, I'm going higher than that. I'm going...
Oh, 10?
6.
That's
6.
who I thought you were talking about, too.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
So,
but that's also track record, because that player was
He's
a former
older.
starter and most likely could still start in the league on like a team like Phoenix,
I've
where
seen
I
the
look at all these
veins.
guys and George Hill could be a starter, but
yeah, I'd say 20
I
million.
mean, but is George Hill? Where would George
paid
Hill
like a starter.
Where would George Hill be on our starters if he's healthy? He'd probably be 20s.
I mean,
that player that
yeah.
you're talking about most likely would be in the second segment.
George Hill's still a good shooter, decent defender.
But he's not a game changer.
No.
I mean, that guy, the guy you're referring to, he was a game changer before.
All right.
Let me put it
let's
this
get back
way.
to this grouping.
And
then.
also, people love that guy.
I know.
There's a ton of love for him.
With the George Hill thing that you just mentioned, we had Colin Sexton at 26. So if George Hill was the starter, would he be above, even,
That
or
area.
below 26?
That area, I think Colin Sexton is flashy. He's young, he's new, but also he hasn't proven anything. George Hill has had a long NBA career.
I put George Hill above where Colin Sexton is.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, again, he's a guy that isn't going to be flashy like Colin Sexton, but he's also probably not going to make the same mistakes Colin Sexton's going to make. So,
Very much.
It depends on what you want.
Yep.
I'd probably be in that area though. He's not going to be top 20 though.
No.
So that's it. Any final thoughts on 21 through 30 on six man?
I mean, the only thing is, and this was kind of an internal debate that we had with going Luke Kennard over like Ish Smith for
boy Ish.
the Detroit Pistons, and just how are they going to work, and what is that going to be, mainly because of Dwayne Casey coming in. Like, is it going to, do you think Dwayne Casey will, obviously we picked Luke Kennard, so do we think he's going to favor Kennard more? Does Ish get anywhere close to minutes that he had last year?
I think the biggest thing with Casey will be how he views my good old Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
And if he views him highly, it's going to mean less minutes for Ish Smith if Reggie Jackson's healthy. But if he views as Ish Smith as a guy who can be crucial to your team, help you win games, most likely, and obviously you might see Reggie Jackson as a negative. Ish Smith at some point might even take over a starting role if Reggie Jackson isn't impressing new head coach Dwayne Casey. So I think it depends on what Dwayne Casey wants out of that point guard position. But again, Luke Kennard is a guy that is more, at least younger. He's more interesting to talk about. We know what we're getting from Ish Smith. I don't think we're going to see a crazy a renaissance of Ish Smith coming soon. I don't think we're going to see 20 points per game. 10,
man,
I don't think we're going to see
breaking
20
out.
points per game. 10 assists. He's not going to have a Dinwiddie year, but he's gonna be something. Was Dinwiddie even? Did we put Dinwiddie in our rankings at all?
Oh God.
Oh fuck, we fucked up.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Spencer Dinwiddie would probably be in the top 10 too. So, well, we fucked up.
Off a realization.
Oh, well. Who's the point guard for Brooklyn then?
It's
D'Lo.
Karis
Doesn't
LeVert. We got
No,
Karis LeVert.
No,
as a
I
sixth
said
man.
the point guard.
Oh,
D'Lo.
D'Lo.
He's
D'Angelo
not the
Russell.
two?
No.
Who's the two?
One. God, calling us
Fuck
out. I
Brooklyn.
gotta scroll through
I'll look
things.
it up. I mean,
Nobody wanted Dinwiddie.
Crab.
Oh. we
yeah,
fucked
Alan
up.
Crabbe. No, Alan. I think we
Crabbe
can
was
like
starter.
Alan Crabbe. We can.
No,
can
I'm saying we
defend that
fucked up
one.
not putting Dinwiddie as a six man.
The problem was
Oh,
Damari
well,
Carroll. Let's just be honest.
No,
It's true.
Like, and no, but like the thing with Brooklyn too, and I'll throw this out there because I had this debate.
But Dinwiddie could be a
no,
starter.
but
on a different
this
team.
too, they traded for Kenneth Faried, so it's like
No, they traded for a pick.
no. But I'm saying Kenneth Faried's on
Kenneth
that
Faried came
team.
along.
So is he
does
going
that
to?
matter?
Is he going to contribute and be a six man? Like
No.
like the Nets. You could pick Dinwiddie, you could pick Fareed, you could pick LeVert.
No,
in my
you
mind
picked
for
Dinwiddie.
this.
You picked Dinwiddie.
You picked
He's
Dinwiddie. You
better
picked
than
the guy
both
who
of
had a
them.
15.9 per 5.7 win shares last year. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
He was
Him and Jared Allen.
incredible last year.
Favorite pros.
Kenneth Faried is on that team, but Kenneth Faried hasn't been a good basketball player in 3 years. Kenneth Faried somehow made a U.S.
no longer the Manimal.
U.S. men's basketball team, but it doesn't mean he's good. It was a mistake that he was on a team, and he's right now. It was a mistake of a contract, and he's most likely going to get Timofey Mozgov minutes. That's his role now. He's not that great. Dinwiddie's pretty good.
Yeah.
So shout out
Credit
Spencer
to.
Dinwiddie. That's the biggest takeaway. The biggest takeaway from this segment is that Spencer Dinwiddie was on here, and I apologize to Spencer Dinwiddie.